Great. Thanks everybody for joining us. This is our meeting, an invitational meeting of stakeholders in Easthampton to talk about this wayfinding project, which, it's a fancy way of saying, kind of representing Easthampton through signs and images, public art, and a lot of things that we've been doing. And this project in particular is funded by Massachusetts Downtown Initiative grant that we got 2 years ago. And we've been working with Favorman Design on it for a while. And Mark Favorman has, a presentation that he'll do to give an update as to where we are. And the goal of this meeting was to take us from kind of a small working group to a little bit broader group of people who have some kind of stakeholder interest in Easthampton. And the goal is to give you all an update, gather some feedback and information from you, and then our ultimate destination is to bring this kind of family of elements, this group of things for Easthampton, the signs and images, to City Council. And the goal is for City Council to say, kind of approve this as our standard moving forward. And that would complete kind of this phase one, which would come up with a set of images and kind of a series of signs. And with that, then we can roll into phase two, which is to begin to secure funding to actually create these signs and get them installed. So I think throughout this, we'll cover some more information, but this is kind of a collaborative with the Public Art Subcommittee. Pascalina is our arts coordinator, and the planning department kind of took this on, and the EDIC took this on as a project to help orient visitors and some Easthampton residents to our kind of distinct areas downtown. And it's really kind of an economic development planning tool that a lot of communities have, which is, when people are arriving to Easthampton for the first time or who don't come very often, they may not know where they're going. And without an iPhone in your hand, you often don't know when you're at the mills, or, Cottage Street has a little bit better branding because the Cottage Street Cultural District, but we want to strengthen that so that people kind of know where they're going when they arrive. And then the last thing I'll just say for the way of introduction is we did kind of have two thought processes on this, which is those people who are arriving in Easthampton by car, and then pedestrian orientation. And one of our key pieces of emphasis was kind of from the Manhan Rail Trail. There's a lot of different intersections along that bike path that right now there's no signs to direct you anywhere. And so that's definitely something that has come through in a lot of our plans. So I think with that, I'll hand it over to Mark, and then I would assume that when Mark's done with his presentation, we'll just have a discussion, and we'll go from there.
Jeff, do you want to introduce everyone first? We'll have them introduce themselves, and then I'll be the last one you get to, and I'll start my presentation.
Okay. I'm going to do it just by the order of I see people on my screen. I'll just say your name, and then if you can just give the quick introduction. So I see James Zarvis first.
Good evening, everyone. I am, as he stated, James Zarvis. I'm a member of the planning board, a longtime community member, and participant in civic action.
Thanks, James. I see Shannon Dunham next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Dunham. I'm a member of the school committee. I also serve on the school building committee and equity steering group for the high school.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah.
Mark, I'll save you for last. I'm going to go to Pascalina.
Hey, everyone. I'm Pascalina Azzarello. I'm the City Arts Coordinator for the City of Easthampton and Easthampton City Arts. I've been working on this project for the last several months with Jeff and with Mark, and it's great to begin to open this process up and get your feedback today. I'm also very involved, of course, with the Easthampton City Arts Public Art Subcommittee. Tracy Eller is our ECA chair and is also on that committee. So it's great to begin to tie a lot of these different initiatives we've all been working on together.
Thank you. I see Mo Bellavo next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mo Bellavo, and I'm the Executive Director for the Chamber of Greater Easthampton.
Thanks, Mo. I see Rachel Phillips next.
Hi, I'm Rachel Phillips. I currently chair the Easthampton Cultural Council. I'm sorry that I don't have a picture up. And we, as a municipal board, also do public art and have monies for it. And we sponsor a lot of it. And we just put a new mural up on the back of Easthampton Feed along the rail trail.
That's great. I still haven't seen it, but I got to get there. I see Tracy Eller next.
Hi, my name is Tracy Eller. I am the chair of the ECA Coordinating Committee, and I also sit on the Public Arts Committee. And I have seen that mural on the rail trail. It looks great. I'm excited about that. So anyway.
Great, thank you. I see Josh Rosenblatt next.
Hi, I'm Josh Rosenblatt. I've been involved with the EDIC for probably about 5 or 7 years. I've been living in Easthampton for 19, and I was very closely involved with the Cottage Street Cultural District when it first got started up. I've not been directly involved with it for 5 years, but I do have that background as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. We lost you there right at the end. I think you finished. I see Carolyn Smith. Carolyn Smith next.
Hi, I'm clerk of City Space, and I'm subbing in for Burns because she's on vacation this week.
That's awesome. Thank you, Carolyn, for doing that. Appreciate it. Then I see Omar Gomez.
Hi, everybody. My name is Omar Gomez. I'm a city councilor, District 2. By the way, the best one in Easthampton.
Thanks, Omar. I see Angelique Baker.
Hi, everyone. Angelique. I'm the chair for the Commission on Disability.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I see Mayor LaChapelle and then Owen. And the mayor said she was eating dinner, so here she comes.
I'm eating dinner. Hi.
Okay. Owen.
Hey, I'm Owen Zarrett, City Councilor at Large. So I actually represent all of the precincts in the city, which I love them all equally. No offense to Precinct 2, Omar. So I've been involved with a couple of these meetings. I've been honored to be a part of them, and always like to take opportunities to have a better sense of the direction in which I'm heading. So looking forward to the final stretch of this.
That's great. Thanks, Owen. And Mark, before I hand it over to you, this is not to shame anybody, but I did have a couple other people who were kind of they're invited to come. I just want to say that because I may share this video, and I think their input, whenever it comes in, would be important. So I had the Parks Director, the Council on Aging Director, and then a member of the Historical Commission. And then we had a couple business owners. We had Russell Braun. I always say that to his last name, Russell from Park Hill. And then we had the Whitmers, who own the Keystone Mill, and we had Whitney Chickowin, who is either an owner or manager at Silver Spoon. So I did have kind of another set of people who were going to round this out, but they weren't able to make it. So I think with that, Mark, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Hi, I'm Mark Faberman. My firm is Faberman Design. We're located in Boston, so I'm the one furthest away tonight from everybody. I've been doing this for a while now. We work with something like 35 communities throughout New England, and our process is always sort of iterative. And in the case of Easthampton, it's a different approach than we had in other places, but I learned from it, and I think it's very good. Can I share the screen, Jeff? And then I can show a slideshow. Hopefully it won't take too long, and you can have a lot of discussion.
Yep, you should be all set. I made you co-host earlier.
Okay. Everybody can see that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we wrestling with here. We're wrestling with something I call community branding. And the concept here is to uniquely underscore community sense of place, the sense of arrival, and it's shared experience, visual experience as well. And it underscores character, civic identity, personality, and it also emphasizes the distinctiveness by projecting a positive image of the community. Community branding also allows people to be connected to a place experience. Now, these are not just buzzwords that I like to use, but these are real terms that underscore what I think everybody on this committee has a desire for Easthampton. And we can talk about a brand till you get to the all hours of the night, but it's about a place brand as opposed to a product brand. And it's how people perceive a community wherever they interact with it. And the ultimate goal is that a community branding turns a place into a destination. So at the last meeting, we had what I call an interactive ideation exercise. And so everybody on the committee got to describe Easthampton in one word, described it in 2 words, then described it in a phrase or 3 or 4 words. And then we looked at icons, we looked at colors, we discussed things like, public art a little bit and street furniture. And you can all get a copy of this, I'm sure, from Jeff, and you can add to these lists. We started, thanks to Pascalina and others, with this map that has been around for a while, and it gave us a lot of clues of how to approach everything. And then initially we looked at doing sort of a gesture design, and we came up with this as sort of a first effort. And the feedback was not that it wasn't okay, it just wasn't right yet. Then it was suggested we look at the bottle, and the bottle had more of a feeling for what symbolically and hopefully aesthetically would work. So we started to develop signage based on that. And this is the overall signage. And then you could see how a directional piece would be at the bottom of this. So we tested different colors. And then we got to something I call Jeff's hierarchy. Jeff wanted to have a hierarchy of elements. And so we took what he suggested and we used the top part of the bottle, and then of the symbols that we found had already been done, we started to work out something that I thought had some resonance. And besides resonating, it also had some elegance. And we can add to this with other symbols. So we looked at different colors. We had a really nice golden retriever come and look at it for us too. I'm going to try to make some humor, but you're not laughing or anything, so I'll move on. And this is what I call the family of elements. So this allows, once the system is developed, to be applied everywhere. The 2 D1 and D2 are trail markers, so they could be for a bike trail or a pedestrian trail. And J is related to something that Pascalina is working on, I understand, that looks like a history tableau or a history marker. The others are directional, and some lead to parking, some lead to gateways to the entrance to Easthampton from its edges. And I just wanted to show you in the town of Southbridge, which is not considered a very affluent town, they implemented a program a year or so ago, and you can see the quality of what this did. And it shows how a very efficient and low capital expenditure can have a huge impact on the environment. So I wanted also to show you some costs of the various elements. And so we're not talking about huge numbers too much here. Some of the E, which is this one, could be lit or not lit, depending on whether it's internally illuminated or not. We'll add or subtract from the cost. But you can see that this is a very efficient program. And I try to update this about every 6 or 7 months as well. So efficiently, that's it. And we can go back through everything and we can talk about it starting probably here. So any comments?
I think we're a small group, so if you want to just unmute, you can, and as long as you're not talking over someone, we can do it that way. If anyone has any comments or questions.
I was tasked from Burns to make sure that everyone understands that City Old Town Hall will be under construction from probably 2023 to 2024. And we want to make sure that any signage that's up there doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it coordinates somewhat with the signage we already have on Old Town Hall.
Okay.
So I really like the number 2. Actually, the colors are really nice. One of the first ones there, and looks great. I mean, as a newbie into this process, looks really nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. I see James Zarvis has his hand up.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I think you've done a great job laying out consistent branding and sending a consistent message, which is very important. Kudos to the whole team that's working on it. A couple of quick questions. Some of this may have been in your email, and frankly, I don't remember. Is there any discussion of budget for any of this? Do we have any sense of how much we can spend? Is there any budget, or is that a separate process that comes later? Was there a grant for this? I think I remember something about a grant in there, but it might have just been for this process and not for what comes later. That's question 1. Question 2 is about, I'm sure this is more granular than we need to be at this meeting, but I immediately have questions popping up as to where and how many.
That'll be the next thing I'm going to ask the committee to do. And we're going to take a GIS map, and we're going to have everybody who would like to participate get a set of the elements and then apply to a map where those elements would go. And we could do it in a phased way so that that a certain area would be the first phase, second area would be the second phase, and the whole town, the whole city would be a third phase. And you could make a budget based on that. And I gave you cost elements, the cost of each element. So that will give you a very workable way to look at costs. Other communities, they've had either their city council or their town meeting or their board of select people give money toward this type of project. In other communities, corporations, banks have given, and foundations have given money for implementation. And I think, and I'm not sure, that some of the new one-stop state programs may have some funding for this. So we'll explore that in later stages. Jeff, you may know more about this.
Well, it's maybe not know more, but there's a little bit to build on just quickly on that, which is originally, as this project started off, one of the funding sources that makes quite a bit of sense is cannabis money, and the revenue from cannabis. It's called an impact fee, but it's also something where people are coming to Easthampton regardless of the purpose, but they're coming to Easthampton, and this is the directional system that will help them get there faster and more efficiently. And so our cannabis
crawling up a.
I muted. Someone maybe was accidentally unmuted. Our dispensaries are kind of geographically spread out right now, that they kind of warrant this idea of people arriving, and this helps people get to where they want to go. And so that's one funding source that we think is pretty viable. That would be, an allocation from City Council. The second one I just want to mention is a project that the Chamber, the city, like the mayor's office and the planning department are working on, is this local rapid recovery. So this is identifying impacts due to COVID, and this project is also being put in there because as we recover from COVID and people are coming back out, when they're coming to East Hampton, we want them to know where they're going. So those are like really the two key. I mean, the cannabis money is available upon an appropriation from City Council. The local rapid recovery funds are a little bit less clear when they would come, but those are the two things that have kind of been discussed loosely about how to fund this. And the hope is, as Mark described, taking phase 2 kind of quick, even kind of doing the locational work, and then phase 2, maybe by next spring, next summer, next fall. The goal would be to have at least a few of these go up at the most important places. So I think with that, I'll yield. I saw Mo and then Owen raise their hand next.
So I just wanted to share with everyone what a fabulous job. Absolutely stellar. I think they're beautiful. I think they're important. And I think it's obviously very needed. And I just think, I don't have a question per se. I wanted to share that enthusiasm for all your hard work. It's really, really just stunning, I think.
We strive to make each of our projects unique to the community. And I felt that this one, we eventually got it, I think. And I really feel very good about this.
I do too. I think you nailed it.
This will be one that I show to other communities as an example. And
the icons are strong. I think they're really great.
Well, that was part of the hierarchy that Jeff was trying to express. And Pasqualina also had part of that conversation. And, we feel that there should be an overall general East Hampton image, and then we could have icons wherever they're appropriate and directions to them. For real wayfinding, you do not want to have more than 5 or 6 directional pieces. After that, people start forgetting where they are and they mix them up. So it's a hierarchy, and it goes from one sign direction to another. So all of that we can talk about later. But also, we can use I don't know how many you know the urban designer, urban planner, Kevin Lynch's work, but he liked the idea of focal points and decision areas. And I think public art could be used at various points for that too. So we can integrate public art and these elements in a very interesting way.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think also it exudes the city's character and identity, which I think so many communities struggle with. So job well done.
Thanks, Mo. Owen, I think Owen, Angelique, then Rachel.
I think something I was going to bring up was just mentioned. Because I thought it was so cool was the further separating using wayfinding to separate the city into districts with color coding, and also those really cool badges we kind of talked about, like with defining very specific symbols for like the Main Street district and Mills, etc., with a specific color that kind of would correspond to that map you initially showed too. So I just thought that was a neat part of the project. I guess we'll be talking about it later on. I just wanted to ask really quickly too, funding wise, is this something where CPA funds could be used at all?
We looked at it initially, but the first take was it's not a clean fit for CPA. So CPA is historic preservation, open space, or recreation, or affordable housing. So we kind of fall out of that as an opportunity. We thought initially. Great. Angelique.
Hi. So I actually had 3 quick little questions about doing things for folks with disabilities. I guess there's QR codes that people can scan, and it will do a text and audio description. Do you guys do those things?
Yes.
Okay.
That can be part of this, certainly.
Okay.
QR codes are part of it, and I had left that out in my initial
Okay.
discussion. I'm sorry.
Another thing was called Way Around, which is like something to do with Bluetooth, and then Era. Have you heard of those things?
I'm not familiar with those two, but we'll certainly look into them. And see.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Angelica, because that had come up before too, is that's like an audio version. So if you consider someone's disability, there would be people who need the QR code and some who might need the audible representation of that. So yeah, okay. So I think that can be, if it's not in the first round, it should be considered for pricing for the next round for the first round.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm talking to Kelsey right now, so she's the one that's bringing these things to my attention. So, okay, thank you.
Those are great. Good time to bring that up. I appreciate that. And then Rachel.
Hi, I have a question about the original map that already exists on Cottage Street, and I'm wondering if a "You Are Here" indicator can be put on it, and if there's plans to put "You Are Here" indicators on the other maps that will be eventually put up.
No, I'm sure that will happen.
Yes, I can speak to that. It is, they will be introduced with all of the new maps that go out, and we will be adding one to the one that's up right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's great, Rachel. Thanks for bringing that up. I see James has his hand up again.
Probably going to happen a lot as I continue to think of things. Please don't think in any way what I'm about to say is derogatory about this. I actually love these and I really want them. I'm just asking these questions because I think they need to be asked. So there's my caveat. I'm curious about the materials used and the lifespan of them. And if in budgeting it may be important to kind of include, maintenance. Can you tell me about what these are made out of, how long they're intended to last, how they wear?
These are made out of metal, the ones I'm showing you. Some communities lately have come up with the idea they wanted granite for posts, and that's very interesting. That'll add to the cost. I try to do these as efficiently and as inexpensively as possible. So that's why it's a post and panel out of metal. The imaging has a life expectancy of 5 to 8 or 10 years. So it's a decade at least that'll last, depending on colors. Red generally fades faster than other colors, and we don't have any red here to speak of. So the material, if it's steel, 30% of steel is recycled to begin with. Just wanted to tell you that. And the cost of steel has fluctuated in the last couple of years, and that should come down. The timing, from the time the vendor gets a set of specifications to the time they're implemented, should be somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So it's a quick turnaround once it's decided what they are and where they are.
That repair or replace when it reaches its end of life?
I don't think I've ever run into one that needed repair unless it was hit by a car or a truck. So I don't really have a good answer for that. But replacement is whatever it is. I mean, they're set in concrete footings, so they're pretty solid. And in some cases, we have even specified breakaways depending on where they are located. So it depends.
And I wanted to add
that could be more specific.
The part that I believe Jeff said, I think it was Jeff that said that Pascalina was working on, that particular type that we showed, which looked like an informative, that last one. I love those. Absolutely love them. I love that you're working on them. Totally support those. Hope we have them everywhere.
So as you see, we included it as J as part of the family of elements.
Yeah, just to be clear, maybe Pascalina, maybe you could speak to this real quick. The first version of that, the one that's on the image now, on the screen now, is going to be the ECA map. That's really kind of our first. So the really exciting part of this is that looking back, the city has been doing so much already for kind of the branding with public art, with having, even just the promenade and these places, the veteran banners that the police department hangs, a lot of these things that we're already doing qualify really well. All the murals. So the one that, Rachel and the ECC put up, and then kind of the long list of murals. When you look at the big picture, Easthampton has a really strong kind of sense of identity, and these are all kind of branding and wayfinding already. But this is really just kind of like this piece. It's been missing for quite some time. And I think, the momentum that we want to try to build out of this meeting and going to city council and next year is to get them up. Because we, as many of the people around this Zoom know, Easthampton is becoming a place that people want to come check out. And if we can get people to come here 2 or 3 times because there are 3 or 4 or 5 places that they want to go, then the system starts to really work and just generates a lot more excitement. So Pascaline, do you want to talk about the sign and all that kind of will be kind of debuted first here?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Jeff mentioned, there have been different funding sources and opportunities that have been coming in over the last several months. And one of the things that we've been working really intentionally about is, like, I think about it as like there's all these existing wayfinding moments, like the murals and different wayfinding pieces. And we're just really in an opportune moment as a city to begin to connect a lot of those dots and really kind of like address each of the individual districts and also where those districts connect. And I think that, the whole process of identifying locations of where the wayfinding signage is going to go is going to be really instrumental in this process. And yeah, so in the last couple of months, Easthampton City Arts printed, close to 20 of these wayfinding signs. We have 8 of them, James, that are of this size. We have the little metal stanchions made. We actually hired a local metal worker to create them, and they're totally custom for what we're looking for. And then some of them the maps span to 4 feet by 5 feet. So we have them all, or we have the first round. Say we have something to work with, which is great. And I think that the locations will clearly be a really important piece to all this.
Yeah, and just one more thing, just to build on that, because the work that Pascaline and many others have been doing we're at this really important time. Like, now is the time to be doing this project and to kind of work through the winter to get, specs and locations and funding. What Pascalina's work has been focused on is with the completion of the Ferry Street roundabout and the infrastructure project, we have a really new kind of upgraded crossing of the rail trail there. And as you're coming from sort of the Northampton side and crossing over, it's kind of be described as kind of like the gateway. If it's the gateway to Easthampton, it's the gateway to the mills. And so you'll see that ECA is putting out a call for public art, and there'll be, at least at a minimum, the ground mounted sign going that direction. And then, what the beauty as we build this is, in approximately, don't hold me to this, but in approximately 2.5 years, when Union Street's reconstructed, we're going to have a brand new, well-improved crossing of the rail trail at Union Street. And for those of you who have stood there before, that's a real important junction where you can get up Union Street to Old Town Hall, or you can go down to Cottage Street. And so within 2.5 years, we'll have a new spot that's fully upgraded, and we'll have kind of the integrated kind of public art and then the wayfinding system at those locations. So I'm really sort of excited and optimistic, because as these new improvements start to happen with infrastructure, we can start to build in these sign systems as we go. So it's a pretty great time to be doing this part of the project.
With those J signs, I can't help but think that
that it may be possible to get our businesses involved. You know, there's so much that's amazing in Easthampton, and much of it is our businesses, our restaurants, our mill shops, our artists. I wonder if it might be possible to do the kind of thing like you see on streets where maintenance is sponsored by a business, and there's a sign that says, you know, this island was sponsored by business or something. I wonder if it's possible on those J signs to make more of them and have them be funded by local businesses. You know, this sign provided by or sponsored by, and then, you know, you could put them all over the place that way. Just tossing that out.
I think that's a great suggestion, Jim. Thank you.
In phase 2, we generally create kiosks, and there are two or three ways to look at kiosks. One is a static kiosk, two-sided, that has a directory, a locational directory of all the business and artisans, and in this case artists, with a map and historical images framing it. And on the other side are posters and announcements of things that are happening in the near future. A second version of that is digital, and it can be done with a video, and that video and that information can be generated from City Hall. So there are a couple ways to deal with a even larger type of kiosk situation. And they historically, our experience has been that they have been sponsored by businesses and corporations, and they are given their acknowledgement at the bottom, subtly, but at the bottom of some of those maps and things. So just wanted to point that out to you. It's another thing to consider as another element here that we're not showing yet.
Great. It looked like Tracy. Yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
I just, yeah, these signs are great, and I'm really excited about them. The one question I have is, there's been a lot of talk in ECA, our committee, about the particular districts, the Mill District, Cottage Street District, Union Street District. And so I don't know how, if these are going to be specific to each district. Is there any way that one sign is going to be, these are the mill signs, these are the cultural district signs? Is there any?
We can designate each of the districts by adding something to them. And so these are sort of the general ones, but we can certainly add definition in different ways to reinforce the notion of specific districts as well.
Okay, because the sign that the other sign that we've worked on definitely has those districts, and that was part of the reason we created the sign. So it would be nice if these could kind of dovetail into that.
Yep. Thank you.
I think that's important, Tracy. That's a good comment. And so that, you know, that, oh, go ahead. I saw, Mary, you want to jump in? And then I saw Owen has his hand up too.
Yeah, I would just, to dovetail onto what Tracy just said and the different districts, that's coming up a lot in our local rapid recovery plan about identification of different areas of the city. I would just, and maybe it's too picayune at this point, around the Mill District, I would just like to see that brand match the rest of, or some of our other districts like Cottage Street, Cultural District, and like Pleasant Street Mills. I'm worried that Mill District or even Easthampton Mill District will be shortened to Mill District, and it'll be very generic. It seems every post-industrial city has a Mill District. And I love the idea of district locations and branding and whatnot. And we just asked this committee to think about something like the Pleasant Street Mill District or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's good. And Owen, before you go, just to build on that, I think this is important to just note that this is kind of one part of, a bigger puzzle. So, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I know that there's people who have been more involved in this than I have, but the Cottage Street Cultural District has really just kind of cemented itself as a really strong entity. And the discussions that I'm aware of, and it's coming through in the local rapid recovery as well, is that we should be thinking also about expanding the cultural district designations outward from Cottage Street. And if you
I saw that. Yep.
If you look pretty, if you just kind of take a glance, the Pleasant Street Mills area is one of the next strongest candidates that's kind of ready to potentially be designated as such. It'll take time, and it'll take the commitment of people to be organized to do that. But then to take one step beyond that too, and I think Carolyn mentioned this, when you add in the timeline for Old Town Hall, so whatever that was, let's say that's construction is completed in 2024. And 2025, we start thinking about the Main Street Historic District as Old Town Hall becomes this anchor presence there. And then I think finally we talk about Union Street. That's going to get reconstructed in the next 2 years, and it's pretty close. And at some point it will become kind of like really clear what it is. So I think those are ways that we take this wayfinding project and we take a cultural district project, and then we kind of really start to make things, bigger, really kind of double down on all the branding for all the districts. Thanks for letting me say that stuff. I think Owen has had his hand up.
Thank you. That's great points.
Thank you.
Just to chime back in, something I mentioned earlier, and I think Tracy made and Eller a good point, that I think we talked, unless I'm mistaken, Jeff, I think we had talked about exactly what Tracy was saying about kind of branding the districts, both so you would know where you were, and there would be kind of specific identifying markers for those, right? Am I remembering that correctly from the last meeting?
We definitely talked about that. And I think, from Mark's perspective, this was really an important stage to get through, which is make sure that we're on the right track with the initial imagery. So I would ask Mark to just clarify, because we've definitely had a lot of project creep. I really appreciate Mark's involvement in this project because it's definitely gone longer. And as he politely alluded to, we've been asking for more things. So at some point, we probably complete phase 1, and then we go into some version of phase 2 to kind of continue to build on what you were saying, Councilor Zara. So Mark.
What I will do is I'll have my staff take a look at how we can integrate district identification on some of these elements here, and we'll show you that. And the thing that I would request from this group is that we take a map, and Jeff, you don't need me for that necessarily. I give you these elements, and you can mark A, B, C, C1, C2, whatever, on locations on the map, and come to some agreement. And then we can then present this to the city council.
Okay.
For approval.
Yeah, because I would agree that that's a really valuable part of kind of the marketing and identity of our city is these kind of individual, there's the macro of this project and there's the micro of all these really wonderful little districts. And I think that's a valuable part of this whole plan.
So good. I like that. So let's take a look at that as soon as you can. And then I don't know, how many more meetings does the city council have during the summer? Or do we have to wait till the fall?
There's one meeting in August, and we probably won't be able to pull off the map exercise before the August meeting. So we're probably talking September at the earliest.
Okay.
No, it's good. This is all great discussion. So I saw Pasqualina and then Rachel.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. I mean, I oversee the Cottage Street Cultural District as part of my role at ECA. Back in 2018 and 2019, we had when we were applying for redesignation, we had a very thorough deep dive discussion with several Cottage Street business owners, several other stakeholders from throughout downtown, really exploring what it would be to expand the Cottage Street Cultural District. And we learned that we're not there yet. I think, as Jeff said, it's going to take time, and there are clearly these different districts, all of which I think have really strong identities. And I think that that's so much of what makes Easthampton so special is it is not a traditional town square, but it's these separate areas that all have strong histories and identities and offerings. And so while I'm all for utilizing the platform of this wayfinding project to emphasize or highlight or elevate those different districts, I also just really, and I feel like we're all on the same page here, but I wanted to kind of say it in this moment of hearing some of these recent comments. I also think that this is a real opportunity for some unification of downtown Easthampton. I think especially from the context of welcoming new people to our city, like something I hear myself say often and throughout this process is like, if you're standing in any one of those districts, you don't necessarily know that the other one's somewhere nearby. Like you don't see it. You don't know that it's there. And one of the things I find personally really valuable about this wayfinding approach is how it unifies. So you can be in different districts and you can see the same elements being echoed. And I think that that's equally important. So I just think it, a rich and intentional balance, I think is very much within the realm of possibility. I think we're heading there, but I just wanted to kind of put that in the mix as well.
That's good. Thanks, Pasqualina, for that perspective. That's good. I saw Rachel, and then I don't know if Owen had his hand up again. So go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, I'm wondering if you do a QR code, if it's possible to integrate Art Walk with that at all. I know when I was part of ECA, yeah. So have you discussed that?
This is all in the back of my mind. I may not have expressed it, but I think that if we have a kiosk in second phase and we have maps, one of the maps would be the Art Walk, as well as the general map of the community. So I really feel very strongly that let's build on what you already have, and I think that's a wonderful piece of this. So.
Yeah, I think this is great. Just this group of people kind of giving the contributions, I think is really valuable at this stage. Mark, in addition, so, one of the things that you heard was about the district kind of, the district identification. If you could also, and we could try to get a little bit more information just about the ability for us to incorporate any kind of technology or the opposite of technology for anyone with disabilities. I think it would be good to see how that fits into either phase one, that would be the ideal situation, or any part of a future phase. So like the QR code, or I think the way around, just as kind of baseline. I think it would be great to have that get incorporated into whatever discussion goes to City Council, and to just understand where does that fall within the project scope. I think those would be really valuable things. Go ahead, James.
I'm really going off on the deep end now, but I was thinking again that one of the things that might need to happen is more than just the signage to help portray what a district or a region or a zone is. It might need to be something that you really have reinforced. The sign helps define it. You have one of those things you were talking about, like a kiosk or something that has a special color for its district, and all the businesses that are going and supporting it, that gives those businesses an incentive to maybe hang a banner of the color or do something themselves, because I think you need buy-in to really make something like that happen, unless we're going to afford like painting the sidewalks, which I don't think we are, to go along with the signs, or something big that really helps you're in a zone. And even just giving a color or telling you in a zone isn't enough. To make a zone alive requires everyone in the zone to feel it, to breathe it, to be a part of it, and to make it something. And the sign's a great start. The discussion, this meeting's a great start, but that buy-in's what's going to make that alive. Just talking out loud.
No, that's helpful. I think it's come up. I think Pasqualina maybe raised her hand. Maybe she wanted to add to that. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think that really speaks to what I was trying to get at in my recent comment, where I think of this in different tiers. And I think that the unification is really important. I mean, the reality is we're a really small city. We have 16,000 people. So personally, and I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I know this is not the time to have this conversation, but the idea of having like 3 or 4 cultural districts in a city of 16,000 people when you can walk in 15 minutes, or, you know, like we have access. And it just seems like very unusual to me that we would think about it like that. But I do think, you know, there are so many ways to really emphasize the unique nature of the different districts. And I love what Jim was just mentioning about the, you know, the kiosks and getting the buy-in. And I think there are just other ways to really activate those spaces with a lot of intentionality. I think we all know and love Easthampton very deeply. And so we know when we hear Mill District, that means something to us. When we hear Cottage Street, and I think, you know, I just moved here 5 years ago, and it was really intimidating moving to the city. It's confusing, and I never knew where I was, and I wanted to know. So I think that just some sense of welcome, some sense of like, we are a city, we are a downtown, I think is really missing. And I think there are just many other ways to sort of get to the uniqueness, which I'm all for, just in case that's not clear.
I think it was clear. That's good. Thank you, Pascaline, again. I saw Rachel and then Mo.
I wanted to address one thing about the cultural districts. While I realize it takes a lot of people to come together, the one thing that strikes me is when we do community input as a cultural council, which we're tasked to do every year, most respondents say what they like the most are things like cultural chaos. And I don't know if everyone knows this. I know Pascalina knows this, but requirements of cultural districts, one of them is you have to have an activity, an event that happens, like cultural chaos, a happening. I know that people in our city of 16,000 people, this is one of their favorite things. And I do wonder if it is advantageous in certain ways to try and cultivate another cultural district, only because doesn't it bring more money to spend, which could possibly also be used on things like this, and also create another event like a block party and put it on the mills to put it on. It doesn't have to be done by the city necessarily.
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, I saw maybe Tracy wanted to say that I do think it's a great discussion. I think we're going off the side a little bit, and I probably led us there, so I apologize. Tracy, did you want to say something about? I think it's great. I think the idea of a cultural district and how to form one and the value of one is a little bit separate from this, because that's my biggest fear in a lot of the work that I do is and it's good to get the input, because I think we all know is there, but if we don't start this sign project, like we'll never get even to the next step. So I'm definitely listening to it. But Tracy, did you want to say something about were you going to respond to cultural district discussion, or?
Yeah, just briefly. I love also the kiosk and idea and getting each districts engaged. I think that's important. I will say that, you know, we have Mill Pond Live. I feel like that's a huge event that people that really love and wait for every year. So while that's not a city sponsored event, it happens in the Mill District, and so I'm just throwing that out there. I know this isn't a discussion for this meeting, but just I'd throw that out.
No, it's good. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone's input so far. So I think it's great. I saw Mo, and then Josh just raised his hand too.
So I just would like to support Pascalina's thought in regards to the unification piece. I think this is a brilliant way to do that. And I would agree with her that there was probably some additional ways that we can identify different districts, but at the same time, pulling things together, because it is something that I do hear when I'm out and about. The separateness kind of thing. And that's what I'll say about that.
Yep, that makes sense, Mo. I think that's good. Josh, go ahead, Josh.
Hi, I'll keep it brief, and I agree that we don't want to get too far off topic, but I think one of the beauties of this program, this plan that's being suggested here, is that it looks like it can be adapted when new things happen in the city. And it looks like on some of these pieces that there is room to add things, and very easily could be adding an applique or something to try change something if need be. But I think it's a great program. I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Great. Oh, and is that a new hand?
It is a new hand.
Okay.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Josh was saying, because it's something I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about kiosks, is that just figuring out how to dovetail these static signs with available technology. So you were talking about QR codes, just so we don't have to print up a new sign every time, for instance, a new business comes into town. Just thinking about how we can integrate this into either the city website or some sort of tourism-based website that's associated with this. Just thinking about that. So not to go too much off the rails, and appreciate everyone's input too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, and I appreciate that. And then I saw Shannon, you had your hand up.
I did. Thank you very much. I want to thank you for inviting me. I appreciate this. I love what you guys have done so far. It's amazing. The signage is great. I can't see everybody's face, and I don't know everyone's voice yet. And I think it was Pascalina was mentioning there are already signs that have already been made.
We have made maps of downtown Easthampton.
Oh, maps. Oh, okay, great. That's wonderful. Okay. I wasn't sure how that was going to be incorporated into this project, and if it was. I was just curious.
Yeah, and I think, Shannon, I don't know if you fell off the meeting for a minute there.
I did, sorry.
That's okay. The Easthampton City Arts had created a map of the downtown, which is one kind of right by Nashwanik Pond right now. And that what happened a while ago with a lot of effort and thought. And that actually was the basis for us to kind of pursue this project. And so they are building on each other. And so the ideas are not butting heads. They're kind of just building upon each other. So it should be good. And what Pascaline has done is, with some money, fabricated a few of this map here that's now on the screen, so that people can walk up. And an earlier comment, I don't know if you were there for that, but Rachel recommended, enabling a sticker or some kind of image to say that you are here wherever these go up. So it helps people understand when they walk up to one of these signs, they'll know where they are and kind of where they can go.
This one's on the back of the building at the pond, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. I see Carolyn, and then I don't know if Owen and Josh have their hands up from before, but I see Carolyn is new.
Just want to get into Pascalina's thing. I think unifying and because I do a lot of stuff outside of Easthampton. I'm in real estate, and people just have a vision of Easthampton as being a cool, up and coming place. So making, kind of defining the different areas probably isn't going to make much difference to people coming in from outside the area. But I think this is a wonderful project, and having things in kiosk or whatever in front of the big important spaces like city space is important. But I think from the outside, people coming in, they just are going to see Easthampton as a kind of a unifying place, despite our kind of oddities of the streets and not having a big main street to connect people together. But I'm thankful for you guys doing this. I think it's wonderful. Just want to chime in on that. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's appreciated. Thank you. I think we're pretty close to the end, and I'll offer Mark an opportunity to say, people can say like anything they are thinking before we end. But one thing I just wanted to, it kind of just occurred to me, it should have occurred to me way before this, but as we approach kind of the final portion of phase one, my understanding from Mark is that we'll have, a brief report, and we'll show kind of how this process took shape. And when that report goes to City Council, I would love to be able to email, all of you and have some of you come to that City Council meeting to just voice, your understanding of the project and your support for it, because I think that will go a long way. I mean, I think it's just a series of steps that we're trying to take. And I think, Mark and Pasqualina and the small group were talked about, we wanted to get more eyes on it. I think the City Council process, if I've learned about City Council, it will go to a subcommittee for the complete kind of understanding, and then it'll go to City Council, whether it's a public hearing or a meeting for a vote. And I think at that point, kind of showing some level of broad support would be, I think it's really meaningful to kind of keep the project momentum going forward. So all of you and the people who are not here, I'm going to ask them to watch this meeting, and then I'm going to ask them to come to the City Council meeting, whenever that ends up being. But I saw Rachel added her hand up, and I think Carolyn's was from before.
So Jeff, in response to that, I guess my question is there a description of what the cannabis funds actually can be used for? Because I know that voicing support for this, other constituents might want to understand why that money is not being used for something else that they think might be more vital.
I mean, I can take a stab at it, but I guess it's good that you're asking that question. I appreciate kind of knowing the question. That's always helpful. I would just, before I answer it, I would say that phase one, with this thing that goes to City Council, is not the complete package for appropriation. This is really just to get the support for the project concept so that we can move into phase two. So phase two and the funding, I would say it's yet to be determined, and it would be a separate discussion. But with cannabis, one of the ways to determine the use of the funds is that it's kind of directly or indirectly related to an impact from cannabis. And so in the discussion thus far, it's a good kind, it is an impact, but it's not it's an impact because we have more people coming to Easthampton who are coming for maybe that purpose. So it's an increased number of people coming to Easthampton looking for something in an area for which we don't have, good signs to direct them. And so, I think that we can kind of go into more discussion of that at some other point, especially when the appropriation request is coming up. But that's kind of, the other thing is things like sidewalks or parking improvements in or around a cannabis, establishment. We haven't really drilled down exactly how that's going to be evaluated. But on first blush, you have people kind of entering from all the gateways into Easthampton to find their way around, and wayfinding, is a part of the thing that will help them get there. So that's kind of as a real quick explanation.
And I hear that, and I don't want to derail the discussion, but I guess what I'd like to know is what it cannot be spent on, and maybe a list could be made, because I know that people will say, well, they impact our roads, if we have extra cars. I'm just throwing this out there because I've seen it before. Yep. So I'm curious if there's a list of what it can't be spent on, and I hear what you're saying, but impact can be many things. So that will come up, would be my guess.
Right. There's no list. That's case by case basis at this point, but you should talk to the mayor's office, I think, for the rest of that. Which is not, I'm not trying to say that in a negative way. I just think that it's going to be better acted that way for kind of understanding where you get a no and we get a yes. So, Mark, I think we're going to hand it over to you. Just kind of maybe close this out.
Okay. So the next steps are to, one, take a look at a map and do placement. And the way you can do that is as a group together, or you could do it separately and then compare where things are and where people seem to agree. That's going to be a location. And that should be the next step that we go through. And we know what the costs are. I think we're ready to present after the map is done. Okay. I will come back to you and I will show you things like a QR code placement and district designations and other things that you discussed tonight at the meeting.
I think that's great. I think, unless someone else has some other last question, I think we'll wrap it up and everyone can go kind of enjoy this nice sunny late evening. But I do want to sincerely thank everyone for spending the hour and 15 minutes to do this. It's really important, and we couldn't do it without kind of the broader look. So I'm very appreciative of it. So whatever I can do to follow up, the first round will be by email. And then, you know, I can ask people if they want to do a map exercise. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, we'll work out a system to do that. But that'll be great. And I'll forward along information as it comes a little bit later on in the summer.
Thanks, Jeff.
Great.
Jeff,
All right.
can you?
Go ahead,
sorry.
Shannon.
I was just going to ask if you could forward some of the information that that Mark had up, because being that I'm just coming into this, I want to actually look at it.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's a really good reminder that we just launched a new website today. And as part of the planning department's effort, I went through and I updated our project lists. And so the Wayfinding project is now listed there. And I think for anyone else who's going to watch this or see the presentation, I'll post the video and the slides there as well. And so Shannon, you'll get a link kind of like to that section of our webpage.
Oh, okay, great.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank everyone.
Thank you.
For your
Bye-bye.
hard work.
Bye-bye.